You wake up and before your feet even touch the floor, your attention has already been hijacked. Notifications, headlines, messages, red dots blinking like alarms. Your mind pulled into 1,000 directions before you've taken a conscious breath. This is not accidental. This is design. You are not distracted by chance. You are distracted by architecture. Every platform, every feed, every app you open is engineered to fracture your focus. And when your focus is fractured, your potential dissolves. You start your day reacting, not creating, responding, not deciding, consuming, not becoming. Distraction is not just a modern nuisance, it's a weapon that robs you of your presence, your peace, and your power. It doesn't just delay your goals, it reprograms your identity. You become someone who starts things but doesn't finish. Someone who plans big and executes small. Someone who scrolls through life rather than leads it. And the worst part? You begin to believe that this is normal. That overwhelm is just part of modern life. That fractured focus is the cost of being connected. But that's a lie, a very profitable one, because every minute you spend distracted is a minute you're not building, not thinking, not feeling your life deeply, not walking your path with precision. And while you're scrolling, others are building. While you're reacting, others are creating. While you're entertaining yourself, others are sculpting their destiny with focus sharper than steel. This is not about guilt. This is about awareness, because what you don't control will control you. What you don't choose will be chosen for you. And distraction has mastered the art of choosing for you what you see, what you think about, how you feel, and ultimately, who you become. But the moment you become aware, the grip begins to loosen. The second you realize that your attention is your most valuable currency, you begin to spend it differently. You begin to question the impulse to check, to refresh, to escape. You begin to build the muscle of presence. And that muscle, when trained, becomes a weapon far more powerful than the distraction ever was. Focus is not natural anymore. It is trained. And in a world that profits off your fragmentation, your ability to focus is rebellion. A declaration, a path back to your true self. So ask yourself, what would my life look like if I reclaimed my attention? What could I build? Who could I become? Because everything you want starts with your ability to focus on it long enough to bring it into existence. And that begins not with more effort, but with fewer leaks, with boundaries, with discipline, with silence, with saying no. You don't need to do more. You need to remove what's in the way. Clarity isn't found by adding, it's found by subtracting what doesn't belong. And distraction, no matter how shiny, how urgent, how normalized, does not belong in a life built with purpose. You are not here to be a puppet of noise. You are here to become a master of your mind. And that begins the moment you decide to stop being available to everything. Your future is not built in flashes of dopamine. It's built in long hours of attention. And attention is a choice. Make the right one. Now, not all distractions are obvious. The most dangerous ones often wear the costume of productivity. A clean workspace, a full calendar, a to-do list packed with low-impact tasks. They give you the illusion of progress while keeping you safely away from the one thing that actually matters. The real work. The deep work. The uncomfortable, confronting, life-shifting work that threatens your current identity. That's why we avoid it. Because the truth is, we're not afraid of failure. We're afraid of transformation. Afraid of what we might have to give up. Who we might disappoint. What part of us must die so the next can be born. And so, instead of facing that fire, we scroll. We answer emails. We stay busy, but not focused. Your attention is not just scattered, it's diverted. Pulled toward the things that feel safe but do nothing to elevate you. Pulled toward the opinions of others, toward their timelines, their standards, their noise. But your power lies in choosing, in saying no to the many in order to honor the one focus, the one mission, the one priority that matters most right now. Because every time you give your attention away cheaply, you dilute your ability to build something great. You weaken the signal of who you are and what you stand for. Diverted attention is theft. It steals momentum from your dreams. It rewires your brain to tolerate the mediocre. It makes you a master of minor things while leaving your major purpose untouched. That's how most people live, competent but unfulfilled, busy but hollow. They've mastered motion but abandoned meaning. If you want to reclaim your energy, you must protect your focus like a sacred resource. You must become ruthless about what earns your time and unapologetic about what does not. You do not owe your energy to every notification, every message, every trend. You owe it to your purpose, your values, your mission. Attention is the gateway to everything: learning, growth, mastery, connection. Whatever controls your attention controls your life. So choose wisely. Every moment of focused attention is a deposit into your future self, and every moment of distraction is a debt that someone will have to pay. Don't leave that debt to the version of you who finally wakes up and wonders where the time went. Protect your mind like it matters, because it does. Because it is the starting point of everything you will ever build, become, or leave behind. In the age of algorithms, exposure has become the default. We share, we broadcast, we update, we perform. But there is a cost to living in constant visibility, a cost to turning your life into a stage and your identity into a product. Excessive exposure doesn't just steal your privacy, it erodes your center. It makes your worth depend on perception. It trains your nervous system to crave validation, to depend on applause, to chase affirmation rather than alignment. The more you expose, the more you fragment. Because the self you show the world starts to replace the self you actually are. When you are always seen, you are rarely felt, rarely still, rarely rooted. Because the performance of exposure demands energy, demands attention, demands that you stay available, on, connected. But you were not built to be constantly available. Your power lives in the moments you disconnect to reconnect, in the quiet hours where no one is watching, and you get to ask yourself not what gets likes, but what feels true. Not what performs well, but what aligns with your values. Exposure can be useful, but if left unchecked, it becomes addictive. It teaches you to broadcast before you build, to announce before you understand, to declare before you decide. The most powerful lives are not the loudest. They are the most deeply lived. They are built in silence, in solitude, in spaces where reflection is prioritized over reaction, where the inner world is more developed than the outer image. Excessive exposure keeps you shallow. It keeps you curated. It keeps you safe. But greatness doesn't come from safety. It comes from solitude, from choosing depth over display, from unplugging from the gaze of others long enough to remember who you are without them. So step back, log out, go inward, protect the sacred parts of yourself from becoming content for someone else's consumption. Build in silence. Heal in silence. Decide in silence. And when the time comes to speak, speak from overflow, not from emptiness looking to be filled. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more truth. And truth is born in privacy, in clarity, in solitude. The less the world sees of your process, the more powerful the result will be. Guard it. The modern world does not just distract you, it overstimulates you. Your senses are flooded. Your nervous system is constantly activated. Every scroll, every notification, every new soundbite is another jolt to your brain's reward system. The result? You become addicted to novelty, hooked on the next thing, the next update, the next hit of stimulation. But the cost is brutal. Because when your brain is wired for constant stimulation, silence becomes uncomfortable, stillness becomes unbearable, focus becomes impossible. You lose your capacity to go deep, to sit with a thought, to endure boredom long enough for clarity to emerge. And boredom is not your enemy. It's the gateway to creativity, to insight, to the mind's reorganization. Constant stimulation blocks this. It makes you reactive, scattered, impulsive. It shortens your attention span and amplifies your anxiety. You start confusing urgency with importance, movement with progress, noise with knowledge. And in doing so, you lose access to your deeper intelligence. You begin to rely on external input for internal regulation. You feel restless, so you reach for your phone. You feel uncertain, so you watch someone else's opinion. You feel inadequate, so you post for reassurance. It becomes a loop, stimulus, reaction, stimulus, reaction, with no space for integration. Your nervous system doesn't get to reset. Your body doesn't get to exhale. Your mind never gets to return to baseline. Over time, this fractures your sense of self, because stimulation becomes a substitute for substance. To break free, you must detox your attention. You must recondition your brain to embrace silence, to welcome stillness, to recover your ability to feel deeply, think clearly, and choose deliberately. Turn off the noise. Create space between the stimulus and the response. Train your system to tolerate boredom again, because in that space lies your freedom. In that quiet lies your highest signal. Stimulation isn't the problem. Overstimulation is. And the remedy isn't withdrawal from life, it's reconnection to self. It's learning to experience life without numbing it, without filtering it through pixels and performances. Constant stimulation is not sustainable. Your biology was not built for it. Your spirit cannot breathe in it. Reclaim your nervous system. Reclaim your clarity. Reclaim the life that only emerges when you stop seeking escape and start building endurance. Not for more noise, but for more meaning. Multitasking is a myth that costs more than it delivers. It creates the illusion of productivity while silently eroding your ability to think deeply, act intentionally, and finish powerfully. Your attention is not designed to be divided across tabs, screens, conversations, and thoughts. Every time you switch tasks, your brain pays a toll. You lose clarity. You lose momentum. You dilute presence. And over time, this fragmentation becomes your default mode. Your work becomes shallower. Your conversations become hollow. Your sense of self becomes faint. Split attention is not efficiency, it's slow erosion. It trains your brain to be everywhere and nowhere at once, to live on the surface of everything and the depth of nothing. And in this diluted state, true breakthroughs can't occur, because breakthroughs require presence. They require full cognitive load, undivided energy, a tunnel vision kind of focus that blocks out everything but the task at hand. Most people don't fail because they lack capacity. They fail because they leak focus. Not in hours, but in milliseconds. In every stolen glance at the phone. In every mental tab left open. In every task started, but not completed. You must reclaim your focus by force. Choose single tasking. Choose rhythm over chaos. Choose closing loops over opening more. Prioritize depth. Measure success not by how much you juggle, but by what you finish with clarity, quality, and integrity. It's not sexy, it's not viral, but it's effective. Deep work builds legacies. Scattered work builds stress. Split attention doesn't just affect your output, it alters your identity. You start to believe you're someone who doesn't finish, who can't focus, who thrives in mess. But that's not who you are. That's just who you've become by habit. And habits can be broken. You don't need more discipline. You need fewer distractions. You don't need to move faster. You need to cut what slows you down. Your next level requires full bandwidth, full presence, full alignment. And none of that is possible when your attention is being pulled in 5 directions at once. So simplify. Shut tabs. Silence noise. Honor the moment you're in. Whether it's a task, a conversation, or a workout, bring your full self to it. The world will tell you that multitasking is mastery. But the real masters are singular, intentional, focused. While others scatter, they concentrate. While others rush, they refine. While others perform, they build. Become one of them. Distraction isn't just an occasional slip of attention. It's become a default operating system. A reflex. A conditioned behavior so deeply embedded that most don't even recognize it anymore. We don't just get distracted, we expect to be. We build our environments, our schedules, even our relationships around constant interruption. And over time, this repeated pattern becomes an identity. You start to believe that you're someone who's just bad at focusing, that your mind is too restless, that your discipline is lacking. But none of that is true. What's true is this: you've practiced distraction so much it became who you think you are. Distraction is addictive because it's easy. It requires no resistance, no confrontation, no internal negotiation. It offers quick hits of dopamine with no real reward. But just like any addiction, it trains your brain to avoid discomfort. And that's the problem, because every meaningful change lives on the other side of discomfort. Every breakthrough requires tension, challenge, sustained attention. And if your default habit is to run at the first sign of mental resistance, you will never build the life you claim to want. Habits are powerful because they operate below awareness. And the habit of distraction is especially dangerous because it looks innocent. It doesn't feel like sabotage. It feels like just a minute on social media, just a quick check of email, just a bit of background noise. But those moments stack. They become your rhythm, and your rhythm becomes your reality. If you want to change your life, you have to interrupt your rhythm. You have to become aware of the micro habits that are shaping your macro results. This doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness and intervention. Every time you reach for your phone unconsciously, pause. Every time you switch tasks midstream, breathe. Every time you feel the itch to escape boredom, choose to stay. Each of these moments is a rep, a chance to break the habit loop and install a new one. One based on presence, on direction, on creation instead of consumption. Rewiring the habit of distraction is a process. It takes time. It takes patience. But the payoff is extraordinary. Because what you gain isn't just focus. You gain power, confidence, control. You stop being a passenger in your life and start becoming the driver. You stop reacting to the world and start designing it. And here's the truth. Your future will be the byproduct of your habits. Not your hopes, not your ambitions, your habits. So ask yourself, are mine aligned with the life I say I want? Or are they engineered to keep me comfortable, entertained, and small? Because the choice to break the habit of distraction is ultimately the choice to step into your full potential. And that choice is available in every moment, every breath, every click. Choose well. Reclaiming your focus is not a one-time act. It's a discipline, a daily rebellion against the forces pulling you away from yourself. In a world that monetizes your attention, choosing where and how to focus is an act of power. It's a declaration that your mind is yours, that your time is sacred, that your energy is not for sale. You reclaim your focus by becoming intentional with your input. You stop consuming passively and start filtering ruthlessly. Not everything deserves access to your mental space. Not every conversation needs a reply. Not every notification deserves a reaction. You begin to set boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. Boundaries around when you check your phone, around how often you open new tabs, around what you allow into your eyes and ears first thing in the morning. These micro decisions, repeated daily, create a macro shift in your cognitive clarity. Reclaiming focus means creating environments that support presence. Clearing your desk, closing your apps, turning your phone face down. It means protecting the first hour of your day like it holds the blueprint of your future, because it does. What you do with the first part of your day sets the tone for everything that follows. Don't give that space to chaos. Give it to clarity. More than anything, reclaiming your focus means returning to your why. When your purpose is strong enough, your distractions lose their appeal. When you remember who you're becoming and what's at stake, you stop negotiating with low-value activity. You stop trading your legacy for likes. You stop living in the shallow end of stimulation and start diving into the deep work that builds something eternal. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, your mind will rebel. Yes, you'll feel like you're missing out. But what you're actually doing is tuning back in to your voice, your vision, your values. The clarity you're chasing isn't out there. It's inside you. And it emerges when the noise fades, when the tabs close, when the world quiets long enough for your own signal to break through. So reclaim it. Reclaim your mornings. Reclaim your evenings. Reclaim your task list, your attention span, your power to finish what you start. Focus is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, fully, without fracture. In a distracted world, your ability to focus is your advantage. Make it your signature. Make it your standard. Make it non-negotiable. Presence is not passive. It is not simply being in the moment. Presence is a practice, a sharpened discipline. It is the art of full engagement, of bringing your entire being into the now with intention and intensity. Presence is what separates the average from the exceptional. Because while most are distracted, multitasking their way through life, the present one notices more, feels more, commands more. Presence is influence. It is power made visible. It's the force that makes a whisper feel louder than a scream, a silence more powerful than a speech. But presence has a cost. It asks you to put down your past, to release your projections into the future, to stop performing and start being. It demands your full self, not just the curated version. And that's uncomfortable, because when you are truly present, there's nowhere to hide. You must meet yourself completely, your fears, your doubts, your deepest truths. That's why so many avoid presence. They fear what might be revealed in the stillness. But stillness is not emptiness. It is space. And in that space, everything you've been seeking can finally be heard. Presence sharpens your perception. It tunes your awareness. It allows you to respond with clarity instead of react from fear. In conversation, it makes others feel seen, not just heard. In your craft, it turns work into artistry. In your decisions, it replaces noise with knowing. There is a depth available in presence that you cannot access in distraction. And when you build your life from that depth, what you create carries weight. It resonates. It leads. You become magnetic. Not because you're trying to impress, but because people can feel that you're actually there. Not projecting, not performing, just fully, undeniably here. And in a world addicted to escape, that level of groundedness is rare. It is sacred. So cultivate it. Train for it. Cut what pulls you away. Practice coming back to this moment again and again, with breath, with discipline, with reverence. Make presence your anchor, your standard, your home. Because when you live from presence, you don't just move through the world, you shape it. The world will never stop demanding your attention. Every second, something is trying to get in. Notifications, opinions, expectations, noise dressed as urgency. And if you don't build an inner sanctuary, a space untouched by chaos, you'll end up living entirely on the outside. You'll react instead of respond. Absorb instead of choose. Scatter instead of build. Your peace isn't found in silence, it's found in sovereignty. The power to hold your center no matter what tries to pull you off course. That strength doesn't come from pretending to be calm. It comes from practice, from rituals that restore your nervous system, from boundaries that are not just lines but acts of self-respect, from choosing presence before performance. Every moment you protect your inner world, you amplify your power in the outer one. Because the world does not need another person lost in the storm. It needs one who has learned how to stand in the eye of it, unshaken, clear, rooted. That's how you lead. That's how you build a life that doesn't just look good, but actually feels aligned. And alignment is not found in doing more. It's found in protecting the space where your deepest knowing lives. You don't need more motivation. You need alignment. Because when your life aligns with your truth, effort becomes momentum. Action becomes clarity. Progress becomes peace. Most people are not tired because they work too hard. They are tired because they are working against themselves. Chasing what they don't even want. Living from expectation instead of intention. Alignment is when your values, your voice, your vision all point in the same direction. No internal tug of war. No conflict between what you do and who you are. And from that place, you stop rushing. You stop forcing. You stop chasing. You move with certainty. You speak with weight. You choose with power. Because you are no longer a stranger to yourself. You've returned to your center. You've remembered what matters. And in that remembering, everything that was heavy begins to feel lighter. Because you are no longer performing, you are living. No longer proving, you are becoming. And from that rootedness, you rise. Not quickly, not loudly, but fully. And that kind of rise? That's unshakable. Transformation doesn't begin with action. It begins with awareness. And awareness is born through the right questions. Not surface-level questions that fill space, but questions that pierce, that interrupt, that wake you up. Who am I becoming? What am I building with my time, my habits, my attention? What am I allowing in that no longer belongs in the future I claim to want? What am I saying yes to that is quietly costing me everything? What do I keep rehearsing? What narrative? What excuse? What fear? That keeps me in the loop of almost, of someday, of not yet. And what would my life look like if I finally stopped waiting and started choosing with intention? These questions are not comfortable. They are not easy. But they are sacred, because they are the doorway between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. And if you're brave enough to answer them honestly, without filters, without performance, they will dismantle what no longer serves you and reveal what's been waiting underneath: clarity, conviction, and a path only you can walk. This is not about perfection. It's about presence. Not about having every answer, but about asking better questions. Who am I becoming? What am I building? What am I tolerating that no longer belongs? What am I saying yes to that's costing me my peace? What story am I still telling that keeps me from stepping forward? These are not small reflections. They are the blueprint for a different life. A life that starts the moment you stop performing and start aligning. The moment you reclaim your focus. The moment you stop reacting to everything and start responding to what matters. Because your power was never outside of you. It was always within, quiet, waiting, ready. All it needs is your yes. So choose it. Choose presence over performance. Direction over distraction. Depth over dopamine. Creation over comparison. Truth over noise. Choose to build. And if this message spoke to something deep in you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share in the comments. What resonated with you most? Your journey matters, your focus matters, and your voice might be the reminder someone else needs. Thank you for being here. Now go, create something that matters.